Tell me what, are you one of, forgive me, and I don't know, are you one of the organizers with this?
No, I'm not. I support this cause. I think it's really important that everyone joins in. I'm so proud of Coburg for doing this, and I wanted to take it a step further and just have some people yelling and stuff like that, really bring people out of their comfort zone and stuff.
What do you think about what happened?
I think it's disgusting. I can't believe that this is still happening. I recently saw the video of the man, I forgot his name, but in 1991, something similar happened and the cops got off with it. And I'm hoping that this doesn't happen. I know they have a sentence, that the man who did this have a sentence. I'm hoping that it follows through with it, and I'm here to make sure that happens.
It has to be asked, and it has to be asked.
Go ahead.
What about the protests of violence, the killings of police officers that are happening now?
I don't approve of that. I understand the frustration and the feel to need to be violent, because it was an act of violence, but you can't kill fire with fire. And so I support the peaceful protests and stuff like that, and I don't think that the protests should be used to rob stores and destroy the economy even more. So I don't support the violence, but I support the protests.
Tell me, you organized this, Isaac. Tell me about, well, first of all, are you from Coburg?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Coburg. I moved to Toronto about a year ago, but I'm back in Grafton now at my parents' house just during the COVID-19 pandemic and everything, just to be a little safer. Yeah, I organized this whole thing, obviously with the help of lots of people's input and advice, comments and whatever. I've sort of tried to accumulate to make it as all-encompassing and as, I guess, accommodating for everything.
Sorry, again, sorry?
I've tried to accommodate as many people's advice and comments as I can. Obviously, it's a huge undertaking, and with, the support of a few other people, I've been able to do it. I mean, hopefully successfully. It looks like it's a good turnout.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. So are you a part of, and again, I don't know this, so forgive me, are you a part of them Black Lives Matter?
No, I'm not an official member. There's no official Coburg chain. I don't really know if they would be able to open up in a town like Coburg just because it's so small. I think their resources are put towards bigger things, but it's just in support of Black Lives Matter. There's a Toronto chain we're going to be donating to, the USA chain. We're going to be donating to National Bailout in the United States, which bails out wrongly incarcerated black people. And we're going to be donating to the NAACP and BBPA in Toronto, which is the Black Business and Professionals Association.
And tell me about, obviously, George Floyd is on first and foremost, is what made this happen, I guess?
Right. Well, yeah, that was sort of what caused, I guess, the protests and rallies, everything, everywhere else. But I mean, most importantly for me, it's that it's not just one event. It's been going on. It's not just even police brutality. I mean, that's a huge factor. But the whole thing is that it's everything. It's history, past, present, future. It's not just one event. It's George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was like that murder that happened that everyone saw. That was sort of one event that made the sparks sort of fly, and then everything just sort of blew up from that, and that's how we ended up here.
Tell me about. So I guess the same question has to be asked because it's being raised now. What about the violence that's ensued? Because now there's been police officers killed during these protests. So it's one thing to protest, but tell me about the violence. Tell me about the officers that had killed. Tell me about what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen peaceful protests happen. I'm 18 years old. I've seen it every year since I've been alive. We've seen peaceful protests for the same cause that we're fighting for now. Anti-racism, social justice, equity among races and cultures. We've seen that fight happen peacefully, and we've seen it go absolutely nowhere. So I mean, now that these riots have been going on, the main officer has been arrested. The other 3 officers have now been arrested as well. Whether or not they'll be fully charged or not, we're not sure. But I mean, now that we've seen these violent riots happen, we've seen a response. I mean, it's a shame that has to be the case. I would obviously prefer there's no violence, but yeah, we've just sort of seen the peaceful protests come and go. People don't pay attention, or people get mad, they don't like it, they ignore it. So I mean, now I feel like the strongest effort is happening, and it's unfortunate. Like I said, it has to be this way, but it is this way. So unfortunately, that's just how it is.
Well, what about the loss of life?
I wasn't aware that anyone had died from the protests. Has that happened in the United States? Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure about that. I mean, I'm sure there's some sociopaths or psychopaths going out there and taking advantage of the sort of anarchy that they can use. But those aren't representative of what we're fighting for. Those aren't the same people as us. We don't want anyone to be killed for no reason, and we don't want anyone to be killed at all. I'm not pro-death sentence or anything. I mean, I'd like to see, a better world, more life, to be able to live, no murder. That's just this is all from my opinion, I'm not speaking for any organization, any group, anyone else. But I feel like a lot of people do agree. I mean, you kind of see it here.
Good. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll try my best with the mask on here.
Philip, you're here at this. Why are you here? Tell me about this.
Yeah, so I'm here to stand up against racism. I think what happened to George Floyd was an absolute atrocity and was disgusting. And this is an opportunity for us to bring, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, that great disinfectant of love and light into areas, unfortunately, in our society that still remain dark with hatred and racism.
The second thing also has to be said, like I've asked everybody, part A, part B, what about the violence, the killings down there now?
Yeah, and I'd go back to that quote I said from Martin Luther King Jr. What we need is love, and we need light, because darkness doesn't push out darkness. Light pushes out darkness. Hate will not be pushed out by more hate. Love will push out hate, and it's love alone, and it's that kindness, that great spirit, that great Canadian spirit that will push out the darkness and hatred in those dark corners of our society.
Important for you to be here, and tell me why.
It's important to me, both as an individual, to make sure that we are standing up against racism, but also as a leader in the community to show that parties of all stripes are committed to pushing out any form of racism that still exists in our society.
Charlie, tell me what you think about this.
Well, it's interesting to see. It's good for the town, good for everybody to come out and just raise awareness for social issues,
Did you think it would be this big, and if yes, why, and if no, why?
Wasn't too sure. I actually had no idea. I didn't think it would be this big, just because it's a pretty small town. I think there's a lot of younger people here, and I think that the youth really is showing their support. It really is the way it's going, because you don't really see them out and about like this all the time, right?
And as a person, does this mean a lot to you?
This kind of support does. There's a lot of interesting things happening right now, and you gotta raise awareness the right way. This seems all right. Everyone's being peaceful. They're just voicing their opinions, but I appreciate this.
Do you agree with the other stuff that's happening in the States, the rioting and things like that?
Right. You can't get behind that. I saw someone steal a puppy. You can't get behind people stealing puppies, right?
Good. You were one of the main vocal ones.
Thank you.
Tell me about today's event.
Well, this is something that goes really, really, really deep-rooted for us and our friends and family. We have African American heritage, and we feel that it's really important to speak up because, as you can tell, we can pass and experience white privilege, but we also experience racism from being mixed race, as well as a lot of people assuming that we're cultural appropriating. For embracing our real culture because we don't live here. So we wanted to be a voice for everyone, and we think that it's so important that anybody of any race, any skin color, any age comes out to these protests and shows support because it's so important. It is so important.
What did you think about it then?
It was honestly, I was kind of expecting a smaller turnout just because a lot of people that I know aren't that enthusiastic about things like this. So it really shows community and
I think at first people were a little hesitant, but as soon as everyone started taking part, that's when we really got our power and our voice, which goes to show that every little thing, every voice, every action that expresses this global pandemic is so important, no matter who you are, where you are.
You've lived in Cobourg?
We moved here in 2006 from England. So we're originally from England, and then our mother's side, our mom, grandma, and great-grandfather are African American, and then our dad's side is Irish. So.
Jeez, Irish.
And also we have Roma Gypsy in there as well. Yeah.
Tell me about what are your thoughts about Cobourg then? Is it racist? Is it not racist? Is it bad racist? Is it
I think it's really, really easy to assume that you're not racist when you're just simply uneducated on things. I think it's really, really important to use those resources that are out there and make sure that you can show as much support as you can. And again, it's just as important that everybody talks about this. Everybody's a voice, no matter who you are. So.
Last question has to be asked, and I've asked everyone that I've interviewed.
Of course.
What about the things in the states that are happening, the violent protests, the killing of police officers? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's extremely controversial topic, to be honest, and I think that personally, I can see, sort of both sides of it. I can see that people don't want people ruining their neighborhoods, their homes, things like that with violence. But I also think that, if people are upset about things getting smashed from violent protests, they should be a million times more upset about the actual issues that are taking place. Like smashing windows in retail and things like that, they can easily be replaced. I understand ruining things that are resources for people, for instance, homeless people, things like that. I don't think that is something that should be ruined because, you go and break stuff and you can go home to your house and be safe. But a lot of these neighborhoods belong to our Black community, and I think we need to be very considerate about that as well. Yeah.
Killing of police officers. A number have been killed in the States as a result of this.
Again, as a human being, I don't think killing any other human being is right. But I think that, again, that's not the point. The point is what is going on in our, our world and what has been going on. You know what I mean? And yes, I understand some police officers being killed, but these people have been innocently murdered for years and years and years. Like, people do not seem to understand that. This is generational pain and trauma. This is not something that's just popped up. Like this, people feel this to their core, and they will for the rest of their lives, and they'll pass it down to their children.